So let's continue my political predictions here. Now, I have so much that I could say about this guy, but instead of going after him, I think I want to have a little chat with my folks on the left here. Y'all are going to let your superiority complex completely underestimate this guy. I don't know what it is about some of y'all that think that just because somebody's from a rural area that they must be stupid, but there is nothing stupid about this guy. And maybe I'm taking it personally because I too am just some dumb hillbilly from Southern Ohio. But I really encourage y'all to put that man's name in a search bar and take a good look at his educational history. He is not dumb by any means, okay? Now, astrologically, I will say he is, number one, highly intelligent. He has the ability to use that intelligence in vindictive ways. He is extremely intuitive. He can read people like a book. And he is chock full of childhood trauma. And with that ability to be vindictive, and he also has the ability to play the long game and make moves in silence, okay? So do not underestimate the intelligence of somebody just because you think folks that believe differently than you are dumb, or just because you think that people from certain areas of the country are dumb, because that is 100% not the case here. Now, this particular month, this is the one that covers all the spiciness that's happening here in mid-August. That intuition of his is getting kicked into high gear with this Pisces ruled ascendant here, and having Neptune retrograde and Saturn retrograde in the first house, creating that T-square there with his midheaven and the Jupiter-Mars conjunction down here in the third house. He's going to see a lot of people very clearly over these next few weeks. And I don't think he's going to like what he sees, but I also think that he is more than willing to make silent moves in order to move things in the direction that he wants them to go. Now, personally, I don't think we are actually going to see anything that happens with him over this next, month or so, because everything happening here is below the horizon. That's usually a good indication that everything that's happening is behind the scenes. It's being done quietly. It's not being put out in public. There is the Mercury retrograde Venus conjunction happening over here, very close to that descendant. He's likely figuring out that some of the people around him were not being honest with him. Now, he natally has his Mercury in Virgo, and it's in his first house, right? So he's already a bit nitpicky. It's very harshly aspected in his natal chart. So he's already a bit nitpicky. He's already a bit hypercritical of the way other people treat him or speak to him. And something comes up here that kind of maybe even brings up some of this childhood trauma, some of this past that he hasn't dealt with, that kind of triggers him into saying, screw you guys, I'm going to take my toys and go home, and start doing things completely different. There's conversations that get a little out of hand down here that are conflicting with like his intuition, and what he thought are happening. They're in conflict with each other, and it's really going to bring out some changes for him in like who he's working with, who he's willing to work with. He's definitely making some changes that we are not seeing. He is definitely most likely changing up alliances potentially here. But again, I don't think that we're going to see a whole lot of this. Some of it may come out because this Jupiter is ruling that midheaven, but I don't think we're going to see tons of anything come out when it comes to him. Now, these conversations could have to do with like his personal values. They could have to do with money. There could be some like financial things happening here. And looking at the cards that I pulled for him, number one, this midheaven, I had the Magician. So again, this ability to do things behind the scenes, make silent moves, definitely there for him. He can make changes without causing a big scene. The Seven of Swords in that 11th house, with that Capricorn ruled 11th house here and Saturn in the first, I think he's finding out something about the people around him, about potentially the groups that he's gotten himself involved in, where maybe they are using him. I kind of get the feeling from his natal chart that he's kind of been used and made fun of and and all of that like his entire life, and or at least through his childhood. And it's almost like that trauma gets triggered when he starts figuring out the people in the groups around him that he's involved in right now. His first house, we do have the Hangman, which is very, I mean, it's not the Pisces card, but it is very Piscean type of energy of observing and sitting back and listening to the intuition. So there's really some things going on here that we are not seeing. There's something going on with financing, because I do have the moon in the second house and 9 of Swords here in the 8th house. So there's something that he's learning about finances that are creating some anxiety for him, some stresses for him. And it's definitely kind of confusing, and I think it's really going to lead him to making some shifts here. Now, again, that whole childhood trauma being triggered thing kind of stands out to me. For the 4th house, you see how we have it ruled by Gemini here, and these guys are going to move into this 4th house. That is your roots. It's where you came from, and I do have the Judgment card for his 4th house here. So something from the past being brought back up, that's really kind of triggering to him, kind of like stands out to me here for sure. All of these quincunxes, these green lines here, these are all shifts that he's making. These are, he finds something out, he changes partnership with somebody. He finds something out and he changes the way he's showing up in his daily life type of thing. I also had the Fool here in the 7th house. Like, this dude has a ton of major arcana cards that came out. So there's major events that happen here. Again, we probably won't see them out in the public eye. We might not learn about them until later on down the road, but there's something when it comes to partnerships. There's something where it comes to money. But overall, I did have King of Swords for him. So he's standing on his principles with this. He is, you know, speaking up for himself. He might not be doing it out in front of a camera, but he is definitely standing up for himself and saying what he needs to say. I, again, feel like there's like some that trauma that he's never dealt with that is getting triggered from the people around him, from the groups that he's involved in, and kind of feel like they're underestimating him, right? They're underestimating his intelligence and his ability to take control of a situation. And I think he's going to start seeing that and start kind of reacting to that, probably from a very trauma-fueled type of way. So again, don't think that we will see anything about it until later on down the road, but I definitely see some shakeups happening behind the scenes when it comes to JD Vance in this next month.